Hello, and welcome to Friday STEAM. Hopefully today we have all of our technical difficulties sorted out. I know we had some problems with sound on Monday, but I'm looking and it seems to be telling me that I've gotten audio, so let's cross our fingers that that is in fact the case. Today we are going to be talking about the power of steam and convection, and in particular, steam engines, because this month we're exploring things that have been invented here in New Jersey. And one of the first steam engines used for trains was developed right here in New Jersey. In fact, the Stevens family, which is well known in the Hoboken area, and the Blair family from right here in Blairstown were both early train aficionados who built elaborate railroad stations and businesses around the first steam engines, which were really important for helping people travel and helping to move goods from one place to the other. So I thought that would be a really fun thing to talk about today, and there's a lot of really exciting science behind it. I do want to let you know I'm following along in the comments. Hopefully that's working today too. So let's get started. All right, you might be wondering why I have this big thing of water sitting here. Let's see if I can get this up nice and high so you can see it. What this is, if you can see that well, it looks pretty good. This is warm water that I've just dyed with a little bit of food dye. And I'm going to add, and hope that it hasn't melted on me, some blue ice. And I want you to take a look at what happens when we do that. Okay, I've got a little bit of blue ice left. It hasn't all melted on me. So let's watch closely. I'm going to just drop my blue ice in here. And I want you to just watch. What do we see? What do we see? Oh, kind of like icebergs. Okay. All right, I'm not sure how well this is showing up, but I'm going to attempt to zoom in here for you. Let us see how well that works. Come on, where is my zoom? Let's see. Nope, it's not letting me zoom in today, so I'm just going to be old school here, and it has already melted away. I'm going to just try and bring it a little closer to you so you can see, hopefully. Now what you may see with those last couple of pieces of ice, okay, is the blue dye falling to the bottom. And you can actually see those waves of water moving. And if you try this at home, which is pretty easy to do, right? All it is a little bit of warm water with some red dye and blue ice cubes. What you'll see is that the blue dye will actually drop down to the bottom of your tank. And as it does that, and of course the more ice that you still have, the better. Unfortunately, it's pretty hot here today in Blairstown. What you'll see is that all the colder water drops to the bottom of the tank while the warm water transfers up towards the top. And this is what we mean when we talk sometimes about heat rises. Does anyone have any ideas as to why that might happen? Anybody? Anybody? All right. I'm just going to put this out of the way. What happens is when we add thermal energy to anything, that can help those molecules, those particles, gain energy and move more. So we see a transfer of thermal energy into kinetic energy, the energy of motion. So all those tiny little molecules of water are getting a rush of energy when they're heated up. And when they do that, kind of like you might do when you get a rush of energy from eating a bunch of Peeps or something, you want to run around. You want to move around. Well, so do the little molecules. So they start moving around and spreading out. As they do that, they become less dense. The way you can think about density is that if you have the same amount of space, say you have a fish tank like I did, and you filled it all with feathers, it'd be very light. That's mostly air, right? That's not a densely filled area. But if you took that same fish tank and filled it with rocks, that's going to be a really densely filled fish tank, and it's going to be much heavier and harder to carry than a fish tank full of feathers. So more dense materials tend to fall to the bottom, tend to drop lower because they are literally heavier. Whereas less dense materials tend to rise, if they can, in the cases of like water and air. So as molecules get lots of extra thermal energy from heat, they start speeding up and running around, and they get all kinetic and they're moving, and they spread out and they become less dense. So you have less of those molecules in that same area. This is basically the principle that all of steam engines are based on. It's the idea of using thermal energy to get those particles to spread out and to move around a lot more. Okay, so we can use this in a lot of different ways. What I need you to do is to get a piece of paper. Oh, here's my tray. Knew I had a tray around here somewhere. All right, you just need to get a regular old piece of copy paper, drawing paper. You can use construction paper, newspaper, whatever you've got. You need a pair of scissors. You are going to need a marker, a pen, a pencil, whatever you have handy. You're going to want a little bit of string, and I use a little bit of tape. You can also just poke a hole and tie the string to your creation, but I'm going to just use a bit of tape. It's quicker. You also are going to want a small tea light or a votive candle. You can even do this over a really bright bulb, a hot incandescent bulb. You can do this over your stove or over a hot plate with parent supervision to make sure everybody stays safe, because we don't want to catch our paper on fire. But you need some kind of a heat source. You might also want to get like a pencil or a stick to tie your our creation to, so that you don't have to hold your hand directly above the heat. But that's up to you, and that depends on if you're working with mom or dad. And of course, you're going to need some way to light our candle in just a moment. All right, let me show you what we're going to do, because we're going to take this piece of paper and create a really cool little device that will actually move in the air, the upflowing air created by our candle, just because of that thermal transfer that's making those molecules move and become less dense and rise up. So I'm going to switch cameras. Here we go. Okie dokies. Now, this is very simple. All you're going to do is draw a spiral on your page. Okay, that's a pretty big one. I'm actually going to see if I'm going to make mine a little bit tighter. Now, if you feel like you're not really sure about this, you can go online and find printouts, templates that will let you cut this spiral. And there we go. That looks pretty good by me. I do have some, like I said, you can print them. Here's one that I found today. Okay, it's really cute, and it's just a little snake. So you can, of course, decorate your spiral. I'm just going to get straight to cutting my spiral out. So we're going to cut around the outside of our spiral. Spiral is one of those amazing fractal shapes, and you see it in nature all over the place, in ferns, as they unfurl in the spring. You see them in nautilus shells, and it's because it's a very energy efficient shape. So nature really doesn't like to waste energy. We could probably take a lesson from her, right? So when she is creating, when plants are trying to capture as much sun as they possibly can, or creatures below the sea trying to trap air or heat, this is one of those really efficient shapes that they can use to do that. And when I say it's based on fractals, what we have learned is that the math actually allows you to see a pattern in how the shape is built. And I'm thinking in June we might do a little bit of a fractal workshop for one of our Friday STEAMs, because they're just really, really neat things. So as you can see, it takes a little time, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can tell I'm not being perfect here, right? I'm just kind of going with the flow. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. Maybe I should have kept mine a little bit bigger. This is going to be really long, and I'm going to have to sit at my table, so you can kind of decide what you want. Now, I do recommend, if you're doing it anyway, let's get that art into our Friday STEAM, right? Get out the markers or the colored pencils or crayons and give it a nice color, right? Make it look like a snake or, I don't know, an octopus or a rainbow, whatever you can imagine. Or you could just put some polka dots on there. Polka dots always make things look happy. Almost done. This is a good practice for our scissor skills, isn't it? Though I didn't stay on my lines very well, did I? When I was in kindergarten, that was always on my report card. I did not color inside the lines. I did not cut inside the lines. I suppose that could have been a predictor for the way things were going to go, huh? I'm not unhappy about that, though. I think it worked out pretty well because I get to do fun things like this with you. Okay, I'm going to call that pretty well done. Alrighty. I think mine might be a little bit too long. I'm going to actually trim mine just a bit because I don't want it to get too close to my flame. All right. Here we go. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of tape and a little bit of string. Just tie this to a string just because, again, we don't want our fingers too close to the flame. Okay. Here we go. Just a little tape. And like I said, you can, of course, just poke a hole in there if you prefer and tie it. Okay, so there we go. That's my little spiral from the above. You can see it that way. Okay, let's head back over to our other view. And I'm just going to bring my mat over. Okay, I'm not seeing any comments. It's probably a good thing. That means you guys can hear me, right? All right, that's my little tea light. Like I said, you can use whatever heat source you want, but our goal is to heat the air, and you can even feel it even from this distance. You want to heat the air. The actual little particles of air molecules are getting that thermal transfer of energy, and they're speeding up, and they're spreading out. And as they do that, we are going to cause what is called convection. And our goal is for that warm air, which is flowing up away from the tea light. I'm not doing anything to this. I'm just holding it steady. The hot air is actually rising up and it's touching the spirals. And because the spirals are unbalanced, because they form that great energy efficient shape, those hot air molecules are rising and moving and all kinetically moving. And as they do that, they're hitting the spirals of the paper. And I'm not holding it very steady, but they're hitting the spirals of the paper, and that is causing the spiral to move. So I want you to try that out. Take a picture or a video. And I'm not being very steady with mine because my arm's getting tired already. Jeez. I spent all day yesterday in the garden, so my arms are pretty tired right now. Anybody else doing any gardening right now? It's beautiful out. Hope you're starting your garden. All right. So there we go. There we got our spiral going. And again, you got to catch the heat just right. Now, you might be saying, well, Sandy, that's cute and all, but what does it have to do with steam engines? All right, let's go to our graphic here. I'm going to talk you through this. All right, this is a picture of how a steam engine works. And I know it looks a little complicated, but you can see that all the way over on the left-hand side, there's a chimney and a boiler and a fire, okay? Because we need thermal energy for this to work, right? We talked about how it needs thermal energy to work. So that thermal energy is heating up the water in our boiler, which is towards the center there, and it's creating steam. That steam, because those water molecules get really active and really excited, just like the air molecules did in our last little experiment, those water molecules are less dense as a gas than they were as a liquid water. So those vapor particles now are really excited. They're moving around with that kinetic energy that they've got now, and they're rising, rising, rising. They rise out that pipe and into the piston, okay, which you can see is kind of a rectangle there. Here's the thing. these water molecules are so energized that they can't help but move. So they're whacking around the sides, that container. You can't contain them. So they actually push that piston up. And that piston gets blown up. And when it does, it moves our flywheel, which is what you see over on the right. As the particles cool, the piston falls, that colder air drops back down through the other pipe and gets condensed back into water. It's kind of like the water cycle if you've studied that in school. It's the same thing. We're just using it to go from thermal energy to kinetic energy of the steam to mechanical energy of the flywheel. And that piston flywheel movement going around and around actually is what causes the motion that we use for things like steam engines. Okay? I have a animated GIF that I was trying to show you. Unfortunately, my computer's not letting me, so I'll post it in the comments for you in a little bit. So, that pressure that builds up from the steam actually can move other things. And that's what we're going to experiment with next. Now, I'm going to tell you, this next one, it's a little tricky. Okay, so I'll post all the instructions online. It's a little tougher to build. And we don't really have the time here today to do it, but I do want to show you how this works. So, this is a little soda can steam engine, okay? And what it is basically the bottom portion of a soda can. This is some tubing, okay? In fact, let me switch over to the other camera to show you a little better, okay? Maybe you could see a little better this way. So it's the bottom portion of a soda can that I've cut, and I've just taped it, okay, so that it stays safe so we don't cut ourselves. This is copper tubing, the kind that is usually used for ice makers. So I cut a long section, about 2 feet long, and I wound it around just a marker, okay, to make a coil. And then you can see I put some holes to let the tube go out. And then the tube is going to drop below the bottom of our can. You're going to want to make sure you kind of press the inside down, because we're going to put our little tea light. Our little tea light is going to go, and our tea light is not doing so great. It's going to go inside our steam engine here. And what's going to happen is the heat from the tea light is going to warm the water we catch inside this tubing, and it's going to come out as steam. And that steam is going to cause pressure, and if all goes well, make our little steam engine move. All right, let's see how we do here. All righty. Wish me luck, folks. Wish me luck. This one takes a lot of luck. All right, where did my bowl go? Right back. I misplaced my bowl. No, really, where did the bowl go? Okay, well, that's fun. We'll just use this. Luckily, I have a beaker on hand. I do not know where my bowl went, so we're just going to use some of our red water from before. You can make anything work, right? All right. Okay, so we have a place for our steam engine. And I'll put this up a little bit higher so you can see it. All right, we are gonna, basically, the first thing we have to do is fill that coil with water, which is a little challenging to do. So, because these tubes are very tiny, but I find if I put the whole darn thing under and shake it, I can usually get some water in there. Okay, now I need to put my fingers on it. It's tighter to work with than my bowl. Okay, turn it over. It's all wet. And let's see if I can get it in to my container without losing the water in my tubes. It's very tough to do. Sorry, I really don't know where my bowl went. It was here a second ago. All right, you gonna stand up for me now? A little worse for wear. Come on now. Okay. Where's my tea light? Tea light goes in. Provide our thermal energy. Okay, we're not doing so great today. Oh dear. Nope. this may not be working. I may have to just admit, I think I might have lost my water, but this isn't gonna work for me today because I've got it in too tight a space. All right, you know what? Okay, so sometimes makers have these things happen. My steam engine is not going to work today, and I apologize for that, guys. I don't have a wide enough bowl to actually get him set up right. And I don't know where my bowl went. Okay. I'm going to call it quits here today. I do apologize for that last project not working out quite the way it was planned. Got it to work at home. Doesn't want to work now. These things happen. I will post the instructions for it so you can try it at home on your own. All right, so this is Friday's theme with the Warren County Library System. I'm Sandy Roberts, the Makerspace Coordinator, and sometimes you just got to admit something isn't going to work out the way you planned. Anyway, I hope that you have a wonderful weekend and that you come on back on Monday where we're going to be making some bristle box out of some old electronic toothbrushes. So make sure that you take a look at our schedule at warrenlib.org for all of our great events. Not only do we have fun STEAM and maker projects, we have adult crafts, we have story times, we have clubs and book clubs that you can do, everything from Pokemon to gaming. So make sure you check out that schedule. Make sure you keep on coming back. Join us here on Facebook. Take a look on YouTube. We are doing everything that we can to give you something fun to do while we're all staying safe and staying healthy. We can't wait to be back at the library with you, and we hope that we can be soon. But in the meantime, we're thinking of you. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep making, and I'll see you on Monday.